You've got so many other. Sorry, you've got so many other things you could. Sorry, is that someone else?
No, I was just asking Zoe, you know what, our guest, I was just asking Zoe Burke,
Oh,
who's
sorry.
the editor of Pitch.co.uk, what she thinks of that research, you know, the big lavish things papering over some facts. What do you think, Zoe?
I'm very pro weddings. I'm not going to say that I think that. I always encourage couples to think about the marriage as well, because sometimes the wedding can be a bit consuming.
We've got a wonderful email about that here you are from Sue in Exmoor. She says, we must separate wedding from marriage. Exactly what you're saying, Zoe. How much do you want a party and how much do you want a partner? Because they're not the same thing. How much you decide to spend on a party is a free choice. It's often too much about the show. No one should feel hard done by about shunning or not affording an overblown commercial enterprise. There is a full-blown wedding sometimes these days, and she just says, all that is about marketing, that's not about love. Zoe, what do you think?
I think there's a very fair point there, and I also think, though, that you can't. I don't like to judge people if they want to spend big on their wedding, if they can afford to do it, because actually there are limitations involved.
But yeah, fundamentally, based on that, then eloping seems like a good idea to me. It's a hugely expensive thing to get married. Why don't we just spend a bit of time, the two of us, on holiday, spend some time together? So that's one option. But then there's all the costs of life, like children, family, buying a house, and then there's costs that other people too having to come to the wedding. Trying to think about, it's a bit of a trade-off, I suppose, of like eloping or having a tiny wedding. you spend on that wedding, like the band and the food, and if you have a larger group of people, then actually it becomes a bit more special. So yeah, that was interesting.
Hold on.
If I can jump in,
Yeah, please do.
advice to Ellie, because she sounds like it's a very similar situation to what we were 2 years ago. And I was actually speaking to my wife this morning about what, because she was actually looking at town hall weddings before the Margaret offer came up. And I think she saw some on the Catholic in Chelsea, I can't remember the name of it, got married in Chelsea Town Hall. Our next door neighbour at the time got married in the Town Hall during COVID. I think it tweaked our mind to have a look at some of the Town Hall locations, and you're just looking at London. Some of them are absolutely stunning. Some of them are, honestly, we did not expect that. Woolwich Town Hall got a beautiful sort of green and pink rooftops. I think Camden off the top of my head is like marble everywhere. Honestly, spend a bit of time having a look at Town Hall, not just in London. I think I remember seeing one in Manchester and Gloucestershire. There's lots of people with the venue. It's just like the call was saying earlier, the email was saying earlier, you can go to the registrar and get married to do the legal bits there, because wherever you go outside of that Town Hall, you have to pay for the 2 registrars to come out as well as do all the paperwork. Other things to think about too is you need to give your notice, and I think a year before you get married, that's £70 or £75, I can't remember off the top of my head. These are little things that do creep up. But genuinely, finding lots of pubs in London, they do cater for everything. There was one venue we looked at of trying to cater for, I think, 50 or 60 people, that they had to have the exact same meal. And obviously your friends have different dietary requirements, what have to just possibly tend. Whereas when we went to the pub in Chelsea, they basically said, and yeah, great advice on the town hall. Thank you very much. I'm going to look into that. And also, yeah, I saw what you guys did on the news, and that was partially what inspired me on the whole resolution. So I was like, I would have loved to be part of what you guys did. So yeah.
Thanks for putting it in. It's kind of a typical thing that the German side and the having in Bristol. Jane, you're already married, I know. Tell us what you did.
We went to Oxford Registry Office, and we booked in the deal that was mentioned by one of your previous phone calls.
Yes,
which was, did you?
Pounds one.
The 50, well, actually, it was a bit more than that, because I think you had to go and pay for notices or something of the sort. So it came to £127, which my husband constantly, and I now have to joke, because we say things like, do you know, we paid a lot of money for you, you best try to come up with a nice meal to eat, or something like this. So it's actually turned out to be an absolute bargain, but it does remind me every now and then that it was a very expensive wine. I better sort of make sure that I give him good value for money.
Oh, that's so lovely. So it worked for you. It was a happy day.
It worked very well, but more to the point, one of the reasons I think that is behind it is that we used to provide a wedding service many years ago, retired from it now, with a horse and carriage. And we realised that for an awful lot of people, it was actually about the ceremony, being the film star, if you like, for a day. And that isn't what marriage should be about. It should be because you found this person, you want to be with them, you know that you've gone through maybe a few difficulties, and you'd be able to stand up to that, your relationship and stand up to it. And I often find myself thinking, if you have this superb wedding, everything has been absolutely wonderful, it's sort of downhill from there. Whereas if you've done your £127 wonder with just 2 witnesses and no photographer, 2 lovely ladies in Polish, and actually getting married because you wanted to be a picture rather than
So we have to sort of fly out to Vegas with all our kids. We've got 5 girls this weekend. And we're going to stay in a massive taxi hotel.
I'm going to say you've been to Vegas before.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah, so you know what to expect.
Exactly, yeah. And we're going to get married like that over Presley.
Oh,
It'll be
wonderful.
brilliant.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's fantastic. Enjoy it. And thanks so much for getting in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, just before we go, we thought we might like to put one of our team getting married tomorrow. Bobby Hacker came into work yesterday. Normally said we had a nice weekend, but she said the team were all kind of made of the day. A lot of talk in the office about it, I think, since. So Bobby, thanks for being future life. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Winifred. We've forgotten to nail the today's Call You News, which was produced by Salford and Tony was late to EBC Audio Production. Now, for the weather outlook this Tuesday lunchtime, it's Darren Betts.
Thanks very much, Ron. Good afternoon. A great deal of sunshine for us today, and the cloud will continue to bring showers along with spells of rain but at least for the moment, it is mild, and high temperatures are going to be in the around 16 degrees widely, but again, we could make 18 degrees in East Anglia and the southeast, but there will be quite a number of heavy, perhaps thundery showers affecting England and Wales for the rest of the day. In North Scotland and Northern Ireland, seeing a lot of cloud, temperatures 13 or 14 degrees. Some further rain, mainly in southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, with showers towards the north. Overnight tonight, though, whilst we start off with wet in many places, it will tend to become dry overnight, but there'll be a lot of cloud around, so it's going to be very difficult to see the meteor shower tonight. And it's going to be mild because of the clouds, and the lowest temperature is going to be in Scotland around 6 or 7 degrees. Heading into tomorrow, and there'll be a little sunshine at times for England and Wales, but we'll see some further showers likely. There's many or as heavy as today. But further north, about coming into part of England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And with a northerly wind picking up for these areas, we'll see some wet weather pushing southwards across eastern Scotland into northwest England, and across these areas temperatures may be only 10 degrees. For all of us, it's going to be a bit cooler than today. The highest temperatures perhaps in the southeast of England of 16 or 17 degrees. And Wednesday night into Thursday, that northerly wind will push down across the whole of the country, really dropping the temperatures. So a chilly old day on Thursday. There'll be some sunshine around, a few showers, many places will be dry. Strongest of the winds around the North Sea coast. Temperatures are higher until we get to Thursday, and only to 1 degree.
Thank you, Darren. Edit Total is standing by the World at 1, and just after that at 1:45 we'll be continuing with Glenn Patterson's series, The Brighton Bomb, and that they take from Margaret Thatcher's life 30 years ago this week. All ahead in the next hour.
On BBC iPlanet, we all know the familiar faces of our solar system, but our neighbourhood is far stranger than we ever imagined. We've glimpsed lightning storms that rage across Jupiter, ice mountains that tower over Pluto's surface, and giant dust devils on Mars. Thanks to a fleet of spacecraft, these wonders are visible to us as never before in astonishing new detail. Solar System with me, Professor Brian Cox. Watch on BBC iPlanet.
On 92 to 95 FM, on BBC Sounds and your smart speaker, this is BBC Radio 4.
Hello and welcome to the World at One with me, Edward Stone. The British-Canadian computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton has won the Nobel Prize for Physics.
I'm flabbergasted. I had no idea I'd been nominated. My first reaction was, how do I tell the human to speak?
Professor Hinton has also warned about the growing risks he sees in the development of artificial intelligence and his further one. The Conservatives call for all special needs pupils to be exempt from VAT on private school fees. We'll hear from the Shadow Education Secretary and from the family affected by the rise.
I think that the government really needs to understand this special education needs crisis, and they need to understand how the independent sector are currently propping up some of the holes in the state sector.
Also on the World at One, the head of MI5 warns about the extent of Russian interference in the United Kingdom, and would you like to live forever?
Only if my dogs could live forever as well. I am euthanasia. Ambulance content,
Why the rise in life expectancy is slowing down. Recently, the Hotman subject.
The UK population has seen its largest annual increase since the early 1970s, according to new figures from Office for National Statistics, up by 1% in the year to June 2023. Net migration was the main contributor to the rise, while deaths outnumbered births for the first time outside the pandemic in nearly 5 decades. Our home editor, Mark Inston, reports.
Net migration, the difference between the number of people arriving and leaving the UK, is estimated to have been more than 660,000 in the year to last summer, pushing the overall population to 68.3 million, a rise of 1%. It's expected that tighter visa controls will see a big reduction in net migration over the next few years. However, without immigration, the UK population would have fallen in Scotland and Wales and significantly more while births still slightly exceeded deaths in England and Northern Ireland overall. In fact, 300 more people died than there were babies born.
The head of the security service, MI5, has given a rare public speech warning of a marked rise in the threats from Russia and Iran. Ken McCallum also warned that Islamic State was seeking to export terrorism. Here's our security correspondent, Frank Gardner.
Russia's military intelligence, the GRU, is on a sustained mission to generate mayhem on British and European streets. That's according to the Director General of the Security Service, MI5, Ken McCallum. Addressing journalists in the High Security Counter-Terrorism Operations Centre, he accused both Russia and Iran of hiring criminals online to carry out their work in this country. Together with police, he said,
Come bene, Cristoforo.
consider the impact of the various elements of particular groups that would hit, and then rethink the policy. And indeed, we would like to take some policy altogether.
Let's talk about some of the specific exemptions, particularly those for children with special educational needs. There is, in fact, isn't there, already an exemption in the government's plans for such children, but you wanted to draw more light.
There's an exemption in the government's plan specifically for children who have an education, health and care plan which specifies on the plan that particular school they're at. It doesn't include other children, education, health and care plan, or children
sharp end. They were behind, for example, the attempted Skripal assassination. They were probably behind the murder of a defector in Spain in February. Their job is essentially, as well as conventional military intelligence, to break things and kill people, and therefore no wonder they're coming to the fore as Russia is sharpening its sabotage campaign in the West.
And we can really talk about mayhem on our streets coming?
Well, I mean, I think this is a slight exaggeration, perhaps, for understandable political reasons, but certainly the intent is to disrupt. It's not necessarily to cause mass casualties or anything like that. It's really because the Russians are aware that they're facing an alliance which, combined, is vastly more powerful, and therefore they're seeking to do everything they can to aggravate internal fissure lines and disrupt basically those societies that they can.
So it's not so much disrupting our everyday life, it's more aimed at politics, if I understand you correctly.
Well, yes, but in some ways by weaponizing inconvenience, disruptions to our everyday life have a political impact. From their point of view, I think it's clear that Moscow is beginning to feel that we have become a little bit too comfortable with our support for Ukraine, and that we don't really feel ourselves to have skin in the game. And therefore, I think what they're doing is, we've seen, for example, massive cyber attacks on railways in Europe, particularly the Czech Republic, precisely to basically to try and make people's lives that bit harder. And in the hope, whether this will work is another matter, but in the hope that that will create some kind of public opposition to the continued support for Ukraine.
Are they trying to infiltrate our political institutions? Are they trying to turn MPs and so forth?
I mean, insofar as they can, absolutely, and this is a classic target. We just heard the story from Ireland, where allegedly an Irish parliamentarian was recruited as an agent and was used, for example, to try and stir up paramilitaries in Northern Ireland during the Brexit negotiations. So, they will look to whatever instrument they have at their disposal, and obviously MPs are a very useful one.
So we really, in many ways, we really are back to Cold War days.
We are, and in some ways, in this respect, we ought to be taking Putin at face value. Whereas it's still a crime in Russia to call the invasion of Ukraine a war, nonetheless, Putin himself uses that same word, war, when he's talking about Russia's relationship with the West. It doesn't mean a shooting war. That's not his goal. That's not something that's likely to happen. But instead, it's a shadow war of subversion, infiltration, and espionage.
Very many thanks, Mark Gagliotti, for joining us this lunchtime. The rate at which life expectancy is rising is slowing down. After dramatic increases in our likely lifespan over the past couple of centuries, a study from the University of Illinois has concluded that the last 3 decades have seen a much lower level of increase. We did a little field work to find out whether the public, or at least a small sample, would like to have an infinite lifespan.
No, I don't think so. Well, unless the quality of life can be enhanced, but it seems that forever is quite daunting.
What's the perfect age then, do you think?
I'll try to get to 100.
Well, it depends.
Only if my dogs could live forever as well.
What about your kids?
I am kids and my husband. I'm living till I'm 110, that's what I tell my children.
As long as I'm healthy, I can see, I can hear, I can move, I don't mind.
Yes and no. Does everybody get to live forever or just me? Probably there'll be a time to go.
Well, statistician Professor Sir David Spiegelhalter is a fellow of Churchill College, Cambridge, and the author of a new book, The Art of Uncertainty. He recently told the New Statesman magazine, "I can't think of anything worse than eternity." Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The increases really were staggering, weren't they, when things were really taking off in the post-war years?
Yeah, for decades, each year that's gone has added around 3 months life expectancy. It's as if each year we get older, we're only aging 9 months. And there's been 2 camps, though, in the community who study how long people live. I mean, one group has said that this is going to continue, and with ascent reaching 100, we'll just keep growing, and some will reach 150. And there's an alternative camp that says, no, there's a limit to all this. We're going to bump our heads above on how long we're going to live. And this study is from the Limits group. They've been promoting this for a long time. And they've looked at 10 countries with a good life expectancy and found, as you said, that the rate of increase is generally dropping. And maths students will recognize this as a negative second derivative. It's gone down to about an increase of, say, 1 to 2 months a year, and may continue to drop.
I'm very pleased to have learned the phrase negative secondary derivative. But I mean, I know you're a statistician, but Which camp do you belong in on the evidence that you've seen?
Oh, I think I'm on the limits camp.